Okay, as you know, on the Dillon 650, when you seat the primer, you can see uh, the primer being seated on this second stage. But you can see that that's when all of this mechanism has to be clean and the spring working properly in it. But when you seat the primer, it pushes that brass, seats it into the plate, and it has to remain fully seated in there. If it slips back out or rattles back out just a little bit, then it's going to strike the die as it goes up and really foul up your reloading and dent the cartridge. So then when you get it fully loaded, then it's not passing the case gauge, or you got kind of a damaged brass kind of thing that you may or may not foul up the works. All right, so one of the problems I had was that I didn't realize it, and Dillon was not able to really help me resolve this. I think it was the telephone communications issue. But I had bought this ultimate bearing kit and put it under this bolt to help it, to smooth it out and be able to tighten it up and hopefully solve some of the problems. Because the other thing is, this is so aggressive when it spins, it slaps into each position, and powder pops out of the case and builds up, and it's just a mess. But the big problem is striking the die on the first one, and then it would come around and completed rounds would hit this clip, and they're supposed to just hit it and be forced out into the bucket, but they would get stuck here, and I'd have to press here, and all the time I'm reaching around to fix a brass, and I have to slow down with my reload. It's just constant problems. Okay, and with the powder buildup, suddenly I'm getting the deformed primers because that powder gets on top of that little piece coming up to seat the primer. So just loads of problems. Not able to fix this for a couple of years. I'm really hating the 650, wishing I still had the 550 because I had it figured out. Now, finally sat down and figured out how to fix this. So with the bearing kit, that's not the answer. I put it back to stock, and I took one of these spare clips, and you'll see it wraps around, but it's loose on there. So now I'm able to press this clip all the way down low and keep it low to the plate and clamp it, bend it just enough to where it retains. You can't turn this by hand. It kind of locks this bolt into wherever I adjust it. Now you got to be careful, because if you tighten this up too much, the plate is so hard to turn or not able to turn, you'll actually break this little piece underneath, that angled piece. See, if I were to force that down, I would break it off under there and have to repair my press. And I do have a spare for that now. But watch how I just loosen this up a little touch, and I can rotate the plate, and it works smoothly, but it keeps this plate from slapping into each position. I just have a touch of lubricant, just a slight little bit of grease inside there. And then now it rotates, but it keeps that plate flat down to the deck. So now when the brass comes in and I seat the primer, it's a tight enough fit that it keeps the brass retained in there. I no longer have the strikes, and by having this clip on there, it keeps this from tightening up as I operate the press. So as I operate the press, see, it doesn't tighten this bolt and cause more problems and potentially break that polymer piece under there. And now with this clip at the right angle and tight and permanent, it kicks them out every time. So I've resolved those particular problems, and that's 3 problems. The slapping of the press into each new other position. See, it's a lot smoother going into those positions. Before, I always look down at my powder, but as it comes into the next position, I would actually be seating the bullet and nursing it into position, and that allowed me to prevent the powder or smoothly going to the next position by seating the bullet on the way. I'd no longer have to really do that. So I've really solved 3 problems with this setup, and I've brought the Dillon back to factory spec, I think, and it really works well. I hope that makes sense, because this can drive you crazy trying to fix these problems.